Yo, 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 what's good, YouTube? What's good? It's Stormybman, and I am back welcoming you to the Friday night chop session with Stormybman for this Friday, January 7th, 2022. And this is 137, and we're simply going to call this one Boxing, Please. So, I want to welcome everybody that's out there, man. Glad to be back for another Friday night chop session, man. Glad that you are back with me. Looks like we got a few people in the building already. Glad that you guys have decided to tune in and check out Stormybman for another chop session. We had a really great show last night. If you guys didn't check out the Boxing Raps program that we put on, where we talked about, the title eliminator and how significant is it in the sport, and is it hurting the sport, helping, driving the sport forward, slowing it down, stalling it. And we had a tremendous discussion on that. So any of you who haven't had a chance to go and check that show out when you get your free time and you want to revisit something, check us out. We had a nice little panel going on there, and some great conversation regarding that subject. But we are here tonight for Boxing, Please, as we get ready to forge ahead into 2022, talking about the sport of boxing. I want to take a quick moment out to do a little bit of a roll call. We got my man Big Homie Coop was in the building early, saying salute Sifu. Back smack the like button, people, and class is in session, so pay attention. That's right. That's right. Started off right, Big Homie Coop. And we've got others who have joined us. I try to catch this thing before it starts scrolling up too high where I can't go back to the original post. MPWTF is out there saying salute Stormybman in chat. And Yahweh is out there saying salute. Who else we got out there? Picasso is back. He says chopping it up. Yahweh said, I'm literally jamming. Yeah, man, people tell me they like my Friday night chop session theme, man. Then to see Ali shadow boxing over that music in the backdrop, man, that's pretty nice, man. Picasso says shout out to Stormybman. Shout out to you as well. And everybody else is greeting each other at the moment. And I shouldn't have to remind you, but I'm going to say it anyway. People smash that like button as you come into the building. Yeah, so 2022 has come in, and we are looking forward to the sport of boxing and what it may have to offer in this first quarter. I like to take the year by quarters. That way, you can dice it up nicely. You know what I'm saying? So I always think of it in terms of that. But we've got some good fights coming up. Some fights have already suffered from this global situation where some dates are being pushed back once again. I think the Joe Smith card, I read something a couple days ago that fight is now being pushed back due to the opponent in that fight. That's just, unfortunate, but it's something that we have to deal with. I would like to make a small statement on that, man, people, we got to be a lot more responsible, man. We got to be a lot more cautious. I don't necessarily know the facts of everything, but I do know if we do our part to try to be a little more disciplined when we go out in the public and everything. I know there are some restrictions and some things that people don't necessarily want to buy into at this particular time. But I think it would behoove all of us to do our part to keep one another safe. It's not so much about thinking selfishly It's about thinking compassionately for us all. You know, this thing is hitting people and families, friends, and foe very hard. And we have to be a little bit more responsible when we're going out in public, when we're interacting, when we are visiting and exiting public places. Bear that in mind. I mean, I just over the week had went to the store and stopped in the restroom, and every man that was in that restroom before I stepped in there came out of there without washing their hands. That's just a graphic image for you to know how people just don't give a damn about you. And you know, when they don't give a damn about you, they don't give a damn about anyone, including themselves. So, as Stormybman has been known to say on many occasions, everybody ain't gonna make it, people. Everybody ain't gonna make it. It's not built for that. There's a reason why the word damnation comes to mind. Huh? Yeah. But I just wanted to say that. I'm not going to preach on anything. I'm just going to share life experience, as I always do, and apply it to where it's necessary. You know what I mean? So you just think about it, because I say it in these terms. You're out in the grocery stores, you're out in restaurants, you're out, and people are touching things. People are, coughing all over things. You got people who are resenting everything we're going through and go out of their way to be belligerent and offensive. See? So you know that when you got people behaving in that manner, hey, it is what it is. So, it doesn't hurt me to take a couple minutes just to mention that on the air as a reminder. A reminder. You know how you have to remind people of things? Some things you shouldn't have to remind. But also some things call into remembrance the unfortunate experience, which should make people be more disciplined. But it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work. How many times have young men been told to strap it up? Huh? Got babies everywhere. Huh? Strap it up. Yeah. Then you crying about when the system get involved in your life. And that's, life-creating circumstance. This that we're dealing with is life-ending circumstance. You'd think people would want to hold on a little longer, right? By doing their part, right? Nah. You know what I mean? It's the same as that criminal mentality. Well, if I'm going down, somebody going down with me. Huh? Yeah. That's what it is. No one said it was going to be pretty. And a lot of times when you paint that picture for people, it forces themselves to look at themselves in the mirror. But even the mirror can have cracks and get broken. And this is what you end up with. So, just a little PSA from Stormybman this evening, huh? That's all. PSA. I'm glad that you guys are here, man. When I came up with this title of tonight's show, Boxing Please, it had the that phrase that was captured so many times from Tyson Fury when he was being interviewed, huh? And being asked about questions that he didn't want to answer. He felt like he was being grilled. Why not? There's so much pork. Might as well throw it on the grill, right? But yeah, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. now that I've got my little bit of a, like I say, PSA out of the way. I have been checking into the latest in boxing news, and I had almost forgotten, ladies and gentlemen, that coming up soon, this March to be exact, we've got a great fight that'll see the trilogy. We saw part 2 earlier portion of last year, where we saw Chocolatito Gonzalez take on Juan Estrada. Now this fight right here, part 2, I thought Chocolatito won that fight, man. He was very disciplined. I think he landed the cleaner blows, and the fight was highly entertaining. But I also was getting the feeling like, as I watched the fight, I don't know that Chocolatito can fight better than what he did on that night. He's had a lot of fights under his belt. He's been the physical type fighter, which means engaging, close quarters. He's taken a lot of punishment over his career, particularly in his last 6 fights or so. So that has started to wear on him. He's cutting easier. Sometimes he gets hit a shot and he appears to be rocked pretty good, you know, and when you're starting to see that out of a fighter, it draws the eye of concern, because you don't want to see a fighter take one punch too many, you know. But this was a very competitive fight, and both men have common opponents like Sor Rungvisai, and you know, they both have had different outcomes with Rungvisai, who may be in the thick of things again once this trilogy is done. When you talk about the smaller weight classes, these guys are like cream of the crop. And I'm hearing the latest is Nonito Donaire wants in on this action. So one of them may end up facing Donaire, which would, a fight against Donaire would really be something, you know, because he's on a winning streak and has tapped into his second life force in boxing, you know, sort of like the George Foreman of those Bantams, you know, those small guys. And hey, I'd watch it, you know what I mean? So we look forward to that. I don't know what you guys, some of the people in the chat right now, you guys like, you know, the lower weight classes. If you don't watch it very much, you're missing out. Because these are the men who truly, pound for pound, when they move a guy, when they hurt a guy, when they put a guy on the canvas, it really lets you know what they bring to the table, because these are very small men, you know. One half of me weighs more than them in total. So it's amazing to see these men get out there and do what they're able to do. And I like to watch them. I really do. Sometimes they possess power and speed. Sometimes they possess just the power. Sometimes it's just the speed. But it's all entertaining for me, because I love the sport of boxing. I love defense. I love guys being able to slip, make guys miss, things like that. The subtleties of the sport. And it comes across in the wash with when you're talking about fighters like Estrada and Gonzalez and Nonito Donaire. Let's just put it out there. So they're talking about a March 5th date which would be great. It's early enough in the year. If there's going to be more unification out of these guys for Undisputed or whatever, they have the rest of the year to work with, long, pending no major injuries on the outcome of this fight or cuts or anything like that. The fight they had last year was Fight of the Year candidate. It's just that we had so many Fight of the Year candidates last year. Amazing. But here I am again, bringing names out the hat that people might have not thought about in a while. So that's what I do. You know what I'm saying? That's what Stormy does, man. Bring that stuff out there like that, let you know what we can be looking forward to. I understand that there's a Showbox card this evening. Some people are into that. I didn't want to push the show back and watch that card and do a late show this evening because when I wrap things up tonight, Stormy is going to hit the sack, man. Tired. You know what I mean? I'm back to work now and had that long break, and it's like, you know what? It gets harder every day. So, yeah, but that's what I wanted to open up talking about in this instance, talking about these guys, because I'm going to tell you, there are a lot of fights that could be made that we are not going to see. And that's simply because the agenda goes forward about the NBF and how they want to control Undisputed across the board in the sport of boxing. I'm almost getting the feeling like we're not going to see a unification between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk, And that's a shame because, those two guys don't mix it up. I mean, you're still going to have the belts are split, and then Usyk might decide to start dropping belts. Who knows? Fury is always an interview away from dropping his belt. I don't know that man enjoys being the person who would have to defend as much as he just likes the chase, the play, and things of that nature. He's still a mixed box of cats, man. I don't know what is on that guy's mind, and nor do I want to try to figure it out. But I just know that there are some fighters out here who are deserving of a title shot. There are fighters who are not deserving. And then you have a lot of placeholders, people who are not necessarily looking to fight for the titles or whatever, but they just want to have their name in the mix and stuff like that and allow these promoters to use them as roadblocks and exits and stuff like that, detours. It's a shame that we have people out there like that, but it's a fact. It is a fact that you see this. You know what I mean? And I'll tell you, it's not a pleasant thing. I know that there had been talk in the news about the possibility of Jamal Charlo and Demetrius Andrade, social media talking back and forth and everything. These men are robbing themselves of so much in the sport of boxing, but they're also going to allow the powers that be keep them apart. They have driven that wedge there, and the powers that be will continue to make sure that it remains, because when it was hot, they blew that opportunity. I don't know that fight will even make as much as it could have made when it was time for them to go around the first time, even though both men are more well known now. But it's a shame that boxing has come to this, that the bouts are being treated like overdone meat on a grill, huh? You're supposed to be able to see that meat and when it's time to come off the open flame. These guys' opportunity was a couple of years ago. You know what I'm saying? If you think about it, roughly around the time that Jarrett Hurd was defeated by what's our guy's name? Can't think of his name now. J-Rock. That's when they should have fought. You know? But such is life. This is what happens. Now, I also hear that Jamal may move up to 168 to face either Andrade or Caleb Plant or something like that. But there's still no talk of David Benavidez. And that's a fight that everybody wants to see. So what's up with that? Does he not recognize that? If he's able to go up and defeat David Benavidez, that right there will definitely increase his star power and his box office power and leverage in the event that Canelo decides to call him out. Because there are rumblings behind the scenes that Canelo still may want to face him, you know? But again, this is all fantasy talk right now until someone decides to make that move, so to speak. You know what I mean? So it is what it is when it comes down to that. You guys are out there a little quiet in the chat right now. I see some people have moved on. I know that there's some other guys that got some streams going right now and everything. But you know, Stormybman, I've been doing the Friday night chop session for a minute. And this is, you know, this is my show, what I do. And, you know, I don't worry about what somebody else is doing. I only worry about me. So that's what I got to say about that. Seemed like when I was talking about the filth out there and how people need to wash their hands and keep themselves a bit clean or whatever, that's when we have more people in here. But I don't like to sound like I'm beating a dead horse when it comes down to having those kind of conversations. Because you guys know. You know what you're supposed to be doing. Wash your asses. You know what I mean? So in other news, from what I understand, there is another report coming out that cruiserweight champion Lawrence Okolie may be moving up to heavyweight. Now that's interesting. You know, Okolie fighting at heavyweight. According to Boxing News 24, I was checking the article out earlier, a couple days ago. It was saying that for his next fight, Lawrence Okolie is moving up. And this is an article by Jack Tiernan from Boxing 24. This was dated the 5th, January 5th. He says that 1 week after sparring with Anthony Joshua, WBO cruiserweight champion Lawrence Okolie has decided to move up to heavyweight for his next fight. The conclusion one can draw from this is that the rumors of the 6'5" Okolie, who's 17-0 with 14 KOs, getting the better of Joshua during their sparring session are true. Wow, man. AJ has just taken an ass whooping all the way around, hasn't he? I mean, it's unfortunate it's not even laughable anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, I see, salute to Renee Box Young. I see you out there in the chat, Renee. No, Renee, the invitation was for last night, bro. That was for last night's show. So you totally missed it altogether. But yeah, I didn't have any guests lined up for this evening. But I appreciate you trying to follow up on that. But yeah, that was for last night's show, Renee. But we'll get together on another time, bro. We'll get together on another time. Don't worry about it. AJ has taken a whooping, man, through his career in the gym and in the ring. And maybe, just maybe, he's just not that good, people. And that's not trying to come down hard on him. That's just making an honest assessment of the guy. An honest assessment. You know what I mean? The article goes on to say, it would have been interesting to be a fly on the wall during the Joshua Okolie sparring session to see what happened. If it's true that Okolie handed Joshua a thrashing, AJ's confidence has got to be at an all-time low going into his April rematch with IBF, WBA, WBO heavyweight champion Alexander Usyk. With Okolie's WBO title, he can petition the WBO to have them make him mandatory for WBO heavyweight champion Usyk's heavyweight title. If Okolie can become mandatory to Usyk, he'll be in a position to challenge for a world title in 2023 or 2024. Interesting. I guess it's 2023 if Usyk remains champion after his next title defense, whether it's a unification match or a voluntary or whatever. 2024 if someone takes the belts off of Usyk. Goes on to say, Okolie will need to wait in line behind other mandatory challengers from other sanctioning bodies before being given a title shot. The money that Okolie will be getting fighting whoever emerges as the WBO heavyweight champion after 2022 will be huge. Okolie won't make that kind of money at cruiserweight even as the WBO champion. It's not a popular enough division for Okolie to become wealthy on the level of Joshua, Fury, or even the contenders like Dillian White. On social media, Okolie revealed his plans for him to go up to heavyweight. He isn't saying if he'll vacate his WBO cruiserweight title, but it would make sense for him to do so. Yeah, to see Okolie at heavyweight, it'd be like looking at Wilder again, because he's like very tall and thin and reedy like Wilder. So, and that right hand of his is no joke either, you know. Let's see. It says, for Okolie to gain maximum success at heavyweight, he's got to stay in the division, gain more weight, and focus on training with bigger fighters. Bouncing back and forth between cruiser and heavy would be a bad idea for him. They're always trying to suggest what's good and bad for somebody. Go sit down somewhere. It goes on to say, Okolie, who's 29, has the size, power, and ability to capture world titles at heavyweight. We just saw former undisputed cruiserweight champion Alexander Usyk defeat Joshua last September. And Okolie is much bigger and more powerful than him. Now, see, think about that for a minute. They're suggesting that he don't go back and forth between the divisions, which he wouldn't. If he moves up, he's going to move up. And then they says he's got the kind of power and size and ability to win a world title at heavyweight. So which is it? This is why you can't always just hang on what these scribes say, because they have agendas. Goes on to say that in the workout clip of Okolie and Joshua in Dubai, Anthony was moving around the ring while being stalked by Lawrence. You could tell that from watching the clip that Okole was lining Joshua up for a right-hand bomb. The 2016 Olympian Okole picked up the WBO cruiserweight title last March, destroying former champion Krzysztof Glowacki by a 6-round knockout. In Okole's first defense of his WBO title, he destroyed previously unbeaten Dylan Prosovic in 3 rounds. Interestingly, Canelo Alvarez has chosen not to target Okole for his WBO cruiserweight title. Let me read that one more time. And salute to the queen, Tay Brown, out there in the chat. I see you out there, sister. One more time for the people in the back who might have said, and salute to you, Kui, I see you. For the people in the back who might have said the film was bad, the audio was bad, the camera was broke, as Ali once said. Interestingly, Canelo Alvarez has chosen not to target Okole for his WBO cruiserweight title. Why not? It is fair to say Canelo wants no part of mixing it up with a fighter with Okole's size, reach, and punching power. Let me say it one more time. It is fair to say that Canelo wants no part of mixing it up with a fighter with Okole's size, reach, and punching power. I wonder why that is, huh? Maybe it's because Canelo never, ever, 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 ever wants to fight anyone who would have a chance at defeating him or knocking him TF out. Yeah. How about that? That article is available on the website for Boxing News 24. You can check it out for yourself, and it's a nice read, but it's what's not being said that's more interesting. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. But I'm telling you, it's those kind of things. See, when you, excuse me, you read for yourself, you can figure things out of what they really trying to say, man. And in this instance, what they're saying about Canelo is, you know, Canelo is a guy who he moves around and makes his own decisions and everything, but nothing will ever, 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 ever be threatening for him. Everything will be lined up in his favor. He has been the one to write his own ticket since he's been around for whatever reason. Yep. But I'll take another article from today, earlier today from Boxing 24, about the Joe Smith fight. Joe Smith Jr. will defend against Steve Jaffaret on January 15th now. And I'll read a little bit of this article for you because this fight right here, it's a replacement opponent. It says WBO light heavyweight world champion Joe Smith Jr. will make his first title defense against an unlikely contender. British puncher Callum Johnson tested positive for C19, so Smith will now face Steve Jaffaret on Saturday, January 15th at Turning Stone Resort Casino, and it'll be live on ESPN and ESPN Deportes, okay, at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific Time. It also goes on to say that in the 10-round co-feature, featherweight contender Abraham Nova, who's 20-0 with 14 KOs, who was originally slated to fight Jose Enrique Vivas, will fight Dominican veteran William El Gago Encarnacion, who's 19-1 with 15 KOs after Vivas dropped out with an injury. I give Steve credit for taking this fight on short notice, Smith said. He is a tough guy, and I expect him to bring everything he has for this opportunity. I'm ready to fight regardless of who is in the ring with me. My goal is the same, which is to defend my world title and keep it on Long Island where it belongs. Man, Smith, man, ever since he defeated Bernard Hopkins, his career has just taken a total upward trajectory, man. You got to love and respect that. And it's Bernard Hopkins' fault that he hung around too long and allowed his name to be attached to someone who's coming on. But at least it wasn't a just flash in the pan. Joe Smith Jr. has turned out to be a tough man at that light heavyweight division. Salute to my man, Big Dog, PGH Big Dog, and also Lambros K is out there, and Bruce Goals is back. He says, peace, my brother Stormy B-Man and family. I appreciate you, bro. Great show last night. Jafar said, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. It's crazy how boxing works. One moment I'm thinking about boxing on a local show. Then the phone rings for a chance to fight for the WBO world title on ESPN. Unreal. Smith, who is 27-3 with 21 KOs, the Fighting Pride of Long Island, won the title last April with a majority decision over Maxim Vlasov. His proposed October return was postponed due to the crisis diagnosis, and with Johnson out, he turns his attention to Jafaret, who's 18-2 with 12 KOs, and is a 31-year-old native of Miami, Florida. Jafaret is a 9-year pro who has won 18 straight fights since starting his career at 0-2. He upped his record to 18-2 last March, winning an 8-round unanimous decision over longtime contender Denis Grachev. Jafaret had a fight scheduled for January 8th in Delray Beach, Florida, but the South Floridan Cinderella Man jumped at the chance to fight Smith on 8 days' notice. Promoted by Top Rank in association with Joe DeGuardia's Star Boxing, tickets priced from $49 to $89 and are on sale now and can be purchased at the Turning Stone Resort box office. Man, let me tell you something. Sometimes when you get a fighter like this who gets that short notice call, that turns out sometimes to be some of the toughest fights, man. You know what I mean? So salute to Joe Smith, who is like, he's just out there ready to defend his title, man. You know what I mean? And you got to respect champions like that. Some guys look to just kind of hang low, on that. But not this man. He's coming on. He's coming on. And I respect Joe Smith, man. Still don't think he'll beat my boy Bitter Beef, but he'll probably be Bitter Beef's toughest opponent. Probably. How come Canelo ain't trying to fight Joe Smith, huh? He was on his Caucasian tour. Why didn't he fight him? Anybody got any thoughts on that? Yeah, let's talk about it. Yeah, but that's what I wanted to share with you guys on that, man. It's very interesting when you talk about this boxing thing. It's very interesting. But, hey, you never know what can happen, man. Never know what can happen. Let me see here. I got something I got to do real quick, people. Stormy B-Man got to take care of something real quick, people. So just hold tight. Give me one moment, okay? Yo, I'm back. Thank you guys for holding tight for just a moment. You know, Stormy found a way to put things together like that, just in case I had to step away from my mic or whatever for a moment. You're seeing some new stuff. And I'm always growing here and doing the best I can for you guys. You know what I'm saying? So just know that everything is being done with you guys in mind. And yeah. But that news about Joe Smith, it's interesting. He's going to go ahead and fight, man. You know, some guys use that as an opportunity to step away from the sport. And I'll tell you, he's doing it the right way. You know what I mean? You got to go ahead, use up that conditioning, getting in shape for a bout and everything. Don't waste it. You've seen a lot of guys just cancel camps and cancel fights. And no, that's kind of old school, and I like that. Give somebody a shot. You know what I mean? Give somebody a shot. But we're going to keep it moving into the subjects of the evening. I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think about Keith Thurman and this fight he has coming up with Mario Barrios, man? Because, you know, with all of the guys that he could have picked to go into a fight with coming back, you know, after his long layoff, the Pacquiao loss, you know, and Barrios coming off of a defeat to Tank Davis where he was stopped by Tank Davis. Now, the thing about this is, if Thurman looks more poor against Barrios in this fight than or if, let's just say, if Barrios looks better against Thurman than he did against Tank Davis, that could be a recipe for disaster for Keith, right? Don't you think? But if you think about it, outside of Sean Porter, who's been a welterweight his whole career, a lot of the guys that Keith have fought are guys who have moved up from 140. He hasn't beat up on a number of true welterweights. And we know he didn't step in there against Earl Spence. He didn't step in there against, what's his name? The guy that's getting ready to fight Amir Khan. Kell Brook. You know, sometimes I'll have all these names in my head. I can't think of people all the time real sharp, and that's getting old. Kell Brook would have been a great fight for Keith Thurman, because true welterweight, right? But no. Barrios, if he could you imagine if he goes the distance with Keith? Oh my goodness. If he doesn't get hurt by Keith at all, oh. If he happens to hurt Keith at all, man. I'm telling you, man, this is not necessarily a good pick for Keith Thurman. It's not. He should have fought a more threatening opponent that would force him to get in shape. But I think there's a sense of taking Barrios somewhat lightly here, and that may backfire on him. It may backfire, man. And according to some of the training footage that people have talked about him and everything, he's not looking the most motivated. Could he be just coming back for a payday, a chance at a gap in employment where some funds might be running a little low? It's possible. But I'm just saying, you know, and I'm not trying to crap on Keith. my thing is, if you coming back, man, come back with the eye of the tiger. Don't come back in here half-assing it, man. Because that little time you've been away, which is a long time in a boxer's career, 2 years out of the ring, dude, there's some hungry guys out here now. And it wasn't that they weren't before, it's just that you left a void, and someone has to fill that void. Someone is anxious to step in. You got Jerron Boots Ennis. You got Virgil Ortiz. You've got Connor Ben. You got Imantas Stanionis. You got a lot of guys who want to come in there and, you know, be the next man up. I don't know, man. It's going to be, I will tune in because I want to see what Keith looks like. You know, I want to see him challenged. I want to see him step up and be like, you know, that interview that they did where both guys, Barrios and Keith, I didn't have a chance to prepare some of the audio for that for you guys, but it's some video out there and audio of them being interviewed with their thoughts on the fight and things like that. You know, they're promoting the fight. I'm just not 100% certain that Keith Thurman is ready, man. Not at all. And Mario Barrios, if you've got anything in you, don't go in there as no opponent. Go in there. You're a former world champion yourself. Go in there like you're moving up to another division to go title hunting. Don't just go in there, oh, I took on Keith Thurman. No. Go in there and make that dude fight, man. You see Manny Pacquiao had him on the canvas in the first round because he didn't respect Manny Pacquiao. When I saw Keith Thurman on that canvas in the first round against Manny Pacquiao, I was cracking up laughing, man, because I had predicted before the fight Keith was going to have trouble with Manny because he doesn't respect Manny. He thinks that Manny is just an old guy, washed up, and he's a new young lion who can put Manny on the outs. No one had ever put Manny on the outs except for Juan Manuel Marquez, and it took him 4 fights to do that. But he came out there and had Keith on the canvas in the first round of that fight, and I laughed. And I said to myself, you see, that's why I was saying that Keith had never fought anyone like Manny. And Manny has beaten better fighters than Keith. How about that? Yeah. That's what I said going in. Manny has beaten better fighters than Keith is a fighter. Yeah. So if he doesn't have the right mindset, he shouldn't be doing this at all. He actually should just retire from boxing and become a commentator. He's better than Lennox Lewis and Sean Porter put together. Joe Goosen as well. He's better. He can break down things. He has a brilliant boxing mind, which is really interesting because it doesn't go along with his boxing skills. Is that something that, like Malik Scott, you know, is a brilliant boxing mind and coach, right? He can break things down, but as a fighter himself, he was not able to implement a lot of that, maybe just because the talent that was required wasn't there. But that doesn't take away from his understanding of what's transpiring in boxing. Keith could slide right over into that booth, man, and he'd be better than a lot of the guys that are on the air today. Tim Bradley, Andre Ward. But my thing is, would the industry get to him? Because some of these guys who went in good faith, they were tainted by the networks, by the companies, and now they've become hard to listen to. That could very well happen to Keith if he goes down that route. you know. 704 Joe says he want payday. Yeah, that's what he wants. But you're never too old for your wants to hurt you, you know? Riddick Bowe used to say that a lot. I wonder if he still says that because, you know, it's a different life for him right now. Wow. But let's see if we can get back into something else I wanted to go over with you guys. And it's regarding, you know, coming out of this fight, this past matchup where we had Prince Charles Martin and Luis King Kong Ortiz competing for that IBF Eliminator. Everybody knows that King Kong ended up victorious in that fight, but there's a fighter that's on the other side of the final eliminator, and we kind of talked about that last night on the show, and that's Filip Hrgovic, you know, the big, I think he's Croatian guy that is looking to face someone in the IBF final eliminator. He was hoping for Luis King Kong Ortiz, and it turned out that Ortiz's camp is saying that he came out of the fight with some injuries, so he's not going to be available right now. They're saying it's his hand. Some people think it's a leg or a knee, but either way, it was a tough and grueling fight for Ortiz against Martin because he was down twice in the fight. And the first time he went down, he was hit on top of the head. And I did see his knee kind of buckle under him when he went down because he kind of went down to one knee. And it didn't look like he was the most comfortable in that situation. And then he was kind of shaking the leg out and stuff like that. But I didn't see anything that indicated to me that he may have hurt a hand. But anytime you go upside somebody's head, you can hurt that hand because some of these dudes out here just got some hard heads, bro. That's hands down the truth right there. Facts, you know. But back to Hrgovic, who gave an interview, and I just want to, you know, share some of that interview that he gave and let you guys know, you know, a little bit more about Hrgovic. So I'll play some of this interview he had, and we can go from there.
This is Andy Purwell for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. I am delighted to be joined by El Animal, Filip Hrgovic over Zoom. Filip, firstly, Happy New Year. I hope you had a good one and a good Christmas. Did you do much?
Thank you, man. You too. I wish you all the best. Yeah, it was a great time. I had a few weeks off during this Christmas time, so it was a great time for me. Family time, the best.
I'm glad to hear it, Filip. As we just said, it's been about a month since we last saw each other in Vegas when you fought out there on the Haney Diaz card. Did you enjoy your McDonald's after your victory?
Of course, that's tradition. After every win, we go to celebrate in McDonald's.
Who pays, Filip? Do you pay or do you get Nissa to pay?
No, it's on me. Nissa pay when we go in expensive restaurants.
I'll remember that.
You know, this guy, what I do like about, one of the things that I like about Filip Hrgovic, and I did a video on him last year talking about him being a guy on the come up, you know, way before now. So nobody could say Stormy is jumping on a bandwagon or anything like this. I talked about him being a guy who might be a next one up if he gets certain fights and he gets in an opportunity. And it looks like now they are moving him in that direction. But one of the things I like about him is he tries to speak in English so that he can be more available, accessible to media. And that's a very positive thing. I would like to see him in tougher opposition. Sometimes a guy just doesn't have certain things. And I feel like as a pro, he hasn't been all around tested. But I'll let him speak a little further before I start chiming in with more of my comments.
Philip, away from the McDonald's, I know it's always been a bit of a frustrating time in your career. You've been waiting for that IBF mandatory to be called. You've been waiting for a final eliminator to be called more so at the minute. You've had Luis Ortiz turn it down. You've had Joseph Parker, from what it seems, turn it down. Philip, why does nobody want to accept this fight?
Man, they're not fighters. I don't understand that. They only talk, everyone calling out my name. They all said that they want to fight me, and then on the end they didn't want to even start negotiation. So I'm really pissed off. I don't know what to say. It's frustrating, and I don't know what to say, because this boxing, man, fighters should accept the challenge. That's boxing spirit. So I don't understand, and I understand that maybe for some fighters they said it's not huge money, but you become if you beat me, you become IBF mandatory challenger. So you will fight in 1 year for world title and you make millions. So, and even in that period when you're waiting for world title fight, you can also fight. You can have fights. So I don't understand. I don't know. And I hope so. I hope so that we'll find solution. We'll find some good name and give fans good fight. And also, yeah, Eddie Hearn, you was in Vegas. Eddie Hearn promised me that he will make big fight for me, but still nothing happening. So I was expecting some big name, and still didn't happen. So I hope so he fulfill his promise.
You see, now he just led in with a very interesting tidbit there. If you caught it, he said that Eddie Hearn had promised him a big fight. Think about that for a moment. Does that sound familiar? Eddie Hearn has signed King Kong Ortiz to their promotional group because they wanted to make sure that they were controlling King Kong's next few moves with Anthony Joshua in the division as far as being a title holder. And they made certain that King Kong was no threat, even coercing the WBA, which I think was the organization that King Kong was the #1 contender for at the time. They made certain that they made no moves. And that's not fair when you have a guy who is really looking to get out there and make fights. Now, does that mean that a fighter like Hrgovic can't get the fight. Oh, he can get the fight. He could get a fight with a guy. But the thing is that right now, because of a lot of things that Hearn has done, some fighters have been woefully overpaid for opportunity. And he's been selective about who he'll overpay. He's not going to overpay someone like Luis King Kong Ortiz. Huh? And he's not going to overpay someone like Filip Hrgovic. But he'll overpay for Joshua. He'll overpay for guys like Chisora or even, what's his name, Dillian White. And you can see there's a monopoly there. Because Hearns has heavyweights he could feed to Filip Hrgovic. But I think that Hrgovic has been signed or co-promoted by Hrgovic's promoter and Matchroom to control his movement, his ascension toward the top. See, the game remains the same, just the players on the chessboard change up. Why isn't he sticking Dillian White in front of Hrgovic? Why isn't he sticking that other big heavyweight he's got over there? Not Dubois. There's another Nigerian dude over there from the UK. Young guy. Got about 10, 12 fights under his belt. See, they're doing these things by design. And you guys should be able to see it now. They're no longer even hiding it. They're no longer hiding it at all. And if you guys can't see this stuff, man, I don't know what to tell you. It's right there in front of your face. Right there in front of your face. And Hrgovic is seeing it firsthand now. But I'll go a little longer.
Have you spoken to Eddie directly about this? Because I remember when you had the press conference before your fight in Vegas, you actually, you put it on Eddie a bit. You said you need to put up more money. You need to get somebody in so I can have this big fight and we can get the final eliminator going. Have you spoken to Eddie directly about this recently?
I haven't spoke with him directly. I have my Wasserman Boxing is my first promoter, so they have co-promotions. So I think they're in touch with Eddie, and I haven't speak with him directly in person, but he promised to all. It was in all media. It was on a press conference, and he promised that 100% I getting big fight next. So I don't know why Joseph Parker is his fighter also. I thought it's gonna be easy to make that fight because we are both with him, but didn't happen. I am really disappointed.
What's your knowledge as to why Joseph Parker has not accepted that IBF final eliminator against yourself, Philip?
I think also that these fights with Ortiz or with Parker would answer a lot of questions about me and about them. A lot of people think I'm future world champion, and if I beat them, it will answer question, am I gonna be champion or no? Do I have potential to beat these guys or no? And
yeah, great answer. And when it comes down to a fighter like Joseph Parker, remember, Parker is the type of guy, he takes these smaller fights. He's not even shooting for the titles. He's not even shooting to become a world champion again. 2 fights with Derek Chisora, and a mediocre, lackluster fight with Dillian White. I mean, Parker, get your butt in there with Big Baby Anderson, huh? Effie Ajaba or somebody. Stop acting like you're really involved in the sport of boxing when you're just skating around the perimeter of the sport. See, that's the thing. You don't fool me with that, huh? You don't fool me at all, because it's obvious that you are not looking to ruffle any feathers. You've come on and become a company man in boxing under Matchroom. When you sold that title to Matchroom and Anthony Joshua, you became a good old boy, huh? That's a shame, man, because there was a time when you were thought to be talented and had some type of future. But every move since, that one fight you pulled out when you said you had the spider bite and everything, it's like I've been looking at you sideways ever since, Joseph Parker. You know? And I just, there's something a lot there that I don't like and get bad vibes from. You know? It's just painfully obvious. But let's get back to Mr. Hrgovic.
Also for Luis Ortiz or Joseph Parker, it will be, you know, good to see where are they, where at what stage are they. Joseph Parker struggled 2 fights with Derek Chisora, and I think he didn't have good performances, and I also beat him in amateurs in World Championship, so I was really excited, and I thought we're gonna make that fight, and I that fight would answer a lot of questions.
With Luis Ortiz, since he pulled out, it came out that he's suffered a hand injury. What did you make of hearing that? Do you believe that yourself, that he suffered a hand injury?
I don't believe. I'm disappointed because both of them didn't even start negotiation. Maybe we could push date, you know, forward to May or to June. I don't know if he had injury, because when you start negotiation, you can, you know, adjust to what the best date for both. So I don't believe in injury.
Away from those guys, and I saw in another interview yourself and Nisa did, Joe Joyce was mentioned. I know Joe is the WBO mandatory, but have you considered reaching out to them to make an offer?
I'm not reaching to anyone. That's Wasserman's job and Eddie Hearn's job. But it will be great. Let's make that fight. So if I beat him, I would be an IBF and WBO mandatory. If he beat me, he has, you know, double mandatory positions. So it will be great. Let's do that. I'm open for that.
Philip, when we last spoke as well, Zhang Zhilei was somebody who had accepted a fight with yourself, or said that he would accept a fight with yourself. Have you had further talks? Where did things get to with Zhang?
Yeah, what information I have is that Zhang accepted the fight, and when if come to list, if we come to his name, that he will accept 100%. That's what I heard, but I don't believe anything, man. I'm waiting for my shot like almost a year, so I don't believe, but I hope so. It's true.
Philip, do you have a time frame in mind when you would like to compete in this final eliminator?
I would like to compete in April, beginning of April. I already start my preparation. I'm doing now 4 weeks strength and conditioning, and then I would like to do 8 weeks, you know, just boxing and sparring and specific part, and then I'm ready for April. That will be perfect time for me. But maybe we can push also for some good name. We can push that. I can take. I can have few weeks rest if the fight is gonna be May or June or something. You know, it's not problem.
Philip, away from those fights, a name which again I've asked you about previously, and I've seen him mentioned in recent interviews of yours, is Alan Babic. I saw your comments that if you was ever to meet, it would be a winner takes all scenario. All the money in the middle, whoever wins takes it, the loser takes nothing. Is that the only way you feel you two will cross paths in your career?
Yeah, that's the only way. That's the only way, because I don't want to give that man chance to make money from me, and that's the only way I fight this guy. He calling my name like long time, but I don't consider him like some treat or some serious challenge. I would do that just if I think it can be big fight in Croatia and good money in Croatia, and I would like to shut his mouth, but only in a way that winner take all.
Man, now he's talking about that dude, Babic the Savage, right? Who is nothing more than a modern day butterbean type of novelty guy in boxing. They put him in with guys and he goes in and he just mauls and brawls and gets guys out of there. But he is not a skillful fighter in the least. And though they're from the same country, Hergovic is like, look, the only way I'm going to fight him is winner take all the money on the table. The winner gets it, the loser gets nothing, because he recognizes that Babic is just a novelty act in boxing. Someone that Hearn can put on undercards and stuff like that and get involved in thrilling tough man-like matches, but not real boxers or anything. And he had trouble with a guy recently in his either last fight or the second to last fight, because the guy got in there and stuck him a couple of shots, and it was like, uh-oh, Babic is in trouble. But hey, man, respect to Hergovic for recognizing that and finding a very clean way to articulate why that's not really a realistic fight and what it would take to make a fight like that happen. See, there's sometimes you have people that can tell you the truth right in front of your face, and that's another reason to like the guy. He is talking exactly like somebody who knows what's going on. And remember, he said it a couple of times early in his conversation that Ed Hearn promised him. Now, that sounds a lot like King Kong with Ed Hearn like 4 or 5 years ago, huh? Sounds like the same old story. What did I say? The game doesn't change, just the players on the chessboard, huh? This is exactly what it is. We're going to wrap this one up with Hergovic. I'll let him say a few more, but there's shout out to Boxing Social who did this interview with him.
Philip, in Croatia, if you two fought, how big of a fight would that be? Because you're both fighting at heavyweight. It's the glamour division in boxing. It's what draws the most interest. Would that be a big fight in Croatia between yourself and Alan?
Yeah, it will be a big fight, because in Croatia we don't have, you know, boxing tradition, big boxing tradition, and there are just few good fighters in whole history, and now people you know, because of my results and my career, boxing become more popular in Croatia, and because he mentioning my name, he become more popular in Croatia. And the normal people in Croatia think that we are, on the same level, that it's gonna be a great fight. Normal people don't understand that I will knock him out in few rounds, and that's why I think it will attract a lot of people.
Alan, as you said, he's called your name for a while. He's been very vocal about you wanting to fight you. Just the other day, he said, he called you a stupid boy, and he said you were deluded. When you hear comments like that, does it annoy you? Does it make you want to make that fight even more?
Man, I don't listen his comments. I don't read his articles, and I don't care about that guy, because maybe 2 years ago, when he was a bouncer at the nightclubs, I was sending him drinks and giving him, pocket money, and that was our relationship. I spar with him with the left hand, and we trained in the same club. So I don't consider this guy, serious. He's just, delusional that
he's trying to find a way to be nice.
But it's his career, it's his life. He can do whatever he wants, but I just know he's not at my level.
Philip, away from him, just a few other things I want to get your thoughts on. Of course, the final eliminator, whenever it does come about, would set up a chance for you to face the winner of Anthony Joshua or Alexander Usyk. What are your thoughts when they rematch? What do you think will happen the second time around?
Joshua and Usyk?
Yes.
I still think if Joshua get back to his style, and if he use his potential, that he will beat Usyk. I still think that. I believe that he can beat the guy, but just the question is, does he still has, mental strength, to overcome his insecurity and his fears, and it's obviously that he's in some crisis, that he's not boxing good like he should. It's obvious, but if he's good mental, if he is strong mental, he can come back, he can bounce back. But just the question, does he have mental and spiritual strength to come back? But he's a great fighter. I think he has potential to beat Usyk.
Now, see, that's very interesting. He was trying to find a way to articulate where Joshua is in boxing in the heavyweight division. Mental strength, intestinal fortitude are the weakest areas in Joshua's makeup as a fighter. I've often talked about he, speaking off cuff and saying these weird things that really, it's like he tries to sound like a man of the world, like he is assured of himself. He's confident in what he was saying and things like that. But you can always tell that's a rehearsed type of circumstance where he just wants to feel like he belongs. He's like placing himself there instead of naturally being there. You see? And he fights the same way. His personality is all in his boxing. Personally, I don't think he could beat Usyk. I think that Usyk can beat him. If they fought 10 times, Usyk would probably beat him 8 or 9 times. But that's just my assessment, my thought. Because Joshua, even now, and this was a great opportunity, too, for me to segue, because the Hrgovic interview, along with the interview that I have of Joshua, there's just a couple of minutes where he spoke earlier in the week. He's trying to sound very convincing about what he's doing and where he is in the sport. But Joshua is in a very fragile and vulnerable place. And if you listen to him talk, you could hear it in him expressing himself. You know what I mean? Salute to the people that just come in there while I was letting this interview play. I see we got Miami the Prince out there. He says, salute Stormy B-Man in chat. Scrapbook Boxing, my man, is out there. Good to see you as well, Scrapbook. Rashid Rourke is out there saying, peace, my brother Stormy B-Man. Same to you. And the rest of you all are saluting each other. I appreciate everybody that came out. I know that this is Earl Taylor. I see you out there, Earl Taylor Sr. We have different things that this show is going to show you guys going forward. I have added some wrinkles of variety, so it won't be stale. It'll be different things. And this evening it was a kickoff for stuff like this, because having some of these interviews, allowing the fighters to speak for themselves, and then me breaking that down and articulating what's being conveyed there is going to be a part of this going forward. But when you have some of these men speaking, sometimes they feel like they have to say something to reflect confidence. You're either confident or you're not. It will show either way. You can't necessarily reflect confidence if confidence isn't there. And you can't tell me you're confident if the confidence is not there. You don't have to tell me. I could see it. You know what I mean? And boxing is a sport where you could really vibe off of individuals. But there was an interview, like I said, with AJ earlier this week, and I'll let you hear it straight from the man's mouth.
I belong on the big stage. I belong as a champion. I belong amongst the names of this current generation. Why? You know, if I didn't fight the best, I may not have lost. And I know people have high expectations of me as well. I think sometimes that's why they're shocked. And I have high expectations of myself as well, but that's why I feel like when I lost the first time, as I said, I never made no excuses, but I have my reason, and I always felt like, cool, you know, I took my loss, but I'll get it back. I knew I'll get it back. So I just brushed that, but this one hurt because I was 100%. No problems, everything was cool, went in there and I just lost to the better man that night and it hurt, but it gave me motivation to pull myself out of that position where mentally it killed me, and I fought my way back, and I'll redeem myself.
Well, Joshua says he will be making changes to his preparation.
Mentally, you heard him say it, mentally, I'll pull myself back. You see, he's already off the square because he said mentally he's got to get back. Why wasn't he there mentally from the start? You cannot play boxing. You cannot fake your way through this thing. When fights transpire, men, the combatants, have a meeting of the minds in that ring. And when you revealed yourself to the opponent, they either know that you got it or you don't. Whether they're defeating you and you've got it, or they lose to you and you've got it, or vice versa. In this little tidbit of him expressing, he speaks about mental strength very much. Then he goes on to talk about his conditioning and his nutrition. And it's like, dude, you are not a robot. You're a human being. You want to be the best that you can be, but you don't need to announce what you want to be. There was an old Nike campaign and slogan from the late 80s, early 90s. I think it went something like this. The words, just do it, baby. Just do it. Just do it. I'd like to spend some time with AJ if he was going to continue to box and have some conversation with him. Because like Mike Tyson, when Mike Tyson was a young man, Custom Auto could teach Mike the style of boxing. He could tell him these tidbits of wisdom and philosophy, and Mike could grasp that because it was new to him, it was different or whatever, and he bought into that because he saw a way that he could have a better life through this man that was mentoring him. I'd like to ask AJ some questions about why is he doing this? Because at the end of the day, I don't think he really wants to do it. I don't. It's reflective in how he carries himself. But let's hear more. Just a little bit more. It's not long.
For the rematch, and he won't try and box with Usyk this time. He also said he'll use new techniques like mental training and listening to motivational speeches.
Let's focus on quality, you know what I'm saying? Let's focus on what's needed. And it has to come from the top down. I'm the last piece of the puzzle. I'm the last performance. So we're talking about game planning, mindset, brain training, you know, sparring, our approach to sparring, what we're getting out of it. All of these things, dietary needs, sleep, recovery, mindset training in terms of what I'm listening to, not just musically, like, you know, motivational speeches and stuff like that. Because this is the biggest stage of my career, fighting for the heavyweight championship of the world. Usyk came up from cruiserweight, great fighter, 12-round fighter. I wanted to box with him for 12 rounds and show, because there was always this stigma is that I can't box. I'm a big, stiff bodybuilder. So I said, all right, cool, let me practice my boxing. Try practicing my boxing with Usyk. It didn't go to decision. He won 9 rounds, I won 3. Next fight, I win, you know, 4 more rounds, I win. So let me simplify that matter, and I'll then get on the road to being undisputed champion. I belong.
No, man. You see how he ran those things off like an itinerary? He, you know, the nutrition, you know, motivational speaking and all of this. Dude, fighting is fighting. You get out there, the guy's throwing punches at you, you got to throw punches back at him. You got to get out of the way of the punches that are coming at you. You got to protect yourself at all times. You got to make sure you keep yourself in a safe place. And you got to be ready to deliver violence on point when the opportunity presents itself. Okay? There's nothing philosophical about this. We're talking about drawing a line from A to B. You're point A, he's point B. Now, how you going to get there? What's the roadmap? All this stuff about your nutrition and everything. Everybody can see that you're in shape, dude. But mentally, you're still deficient. No motivational speaker is going to help you with that. But someone getting in your ear that's teaching you something in the gym where you could be successful. When you see the success behind what's being taught and shown to you, that's ground for you to be receptive to more, because it gives you confidence that, hey, what he told me works. Let me try more. It's not that difficult. But you have to have the right type of person in your ear. Because you're the age that you are, it's a difficult journey. It's a difficult journey to begin with anyway. But it's even more difficult because you put yourself in a position of wasted opportunity. And when I say wasted opportunity, there were points in your career where you could have taken certain matches to grow from the experience of the match. This is what I've talked about when I said you have a prospect that you know he has power. He could get rid of a guy. Now you start working on other things. What is it like to have to chase a guy down, cut the ring off on a guy and get rid of him or break him down systematically? What is it like to go in there when you could hit a guy with your best shot and he ain't going nowhere? Because it could play a mental game on you. Man, I hit him with my best shot. What do I do now? You freaking keep hitting him for the distance if necessary. You don't lose confidence in that, huh? Do you think Jordan lost confidence in shooting them shots? Hell no. He missed that one. He come back, he gonna shoot the next one, because in his mind, the next one going in. That's the type of mentality you have to have. Then as you grow through those type of experiences, you got the guys who are going to put pressure on you. You got to learn how to fight on the inside, which you still have not learned to do. When you can fight on the inside, when you are comfortable standing, no pun intended, in the eye of the storm, you can find that it is most peaceful in that place. You know why? Because the opponent feels the very same things that you feel. It's just the decisions that the opponent makes and the decisions that you make, or either of you do not make, in a opposition of one another, that can make the difference in success. Yeah. That adds a wrinkle of what we call versatility to your toolbox. You don't feel like you have to run. You don't feel like you have to chase. You feel like, hey, if we got to draw that line in the sand, I can get the job done right here. Everybody don't think like that. You have some who will test the waters, and if they have success, they'll press in the waters. But then you have those who will test the waters, and if they're unsuccessful, they retreat. How they say in the military? Pull back! Yeah. Go back to my man's scrapbook. He says, correct, Stormy. Once you lapse mentally in boxing, you're done. You cannot become human in boxing. After your warrior spirit, and then regain that warrior spirit again on the championship level. Yes, sir, Scrap. He says he's trying to convince himself he's there. Yeah. That's why I said, running his mouth, he's revealing himself. It's like he's cut himself open and showed himself on the inside to the proper people who know what they're looking at. He's done. He was done when they ended that 12th round 6 seconds too early. And when he went back to his corner and he flopped down and he threw his head back like, oh my God, that was horrible. Yeah. And that wasn't even that bad, because that was Usyk, who was being a little cautious tactically in editing, and he didn't have a killer mindset. If that was someone with a killer mindset, they would have stopped AJ at some point earlier in that fight. A guy like Tyson Fury, a guy like Deontay Wilder, they would have taken full advantage of his mental breaking during the later quarter of that fight. And that would have been all she wrote. Rasheed Rourke says, yeah, him not being there mentally has me wondering what level is his confidence in his skill set. Yeah. You see? I talk about these things a lot, man. But a fighter like AJ, he needs something like what Cuss used to give Mike. But he doesn't need what Cuss gave Mike. It's different. But he needs someone's ear who he could listen and respect and try to put out. That's very important. It's very important. G5 Gabe, I see you out there. He says, salute my OG sensei, Stormybman, and the chat family. Same to you. We got Black Love, Black Power, Black Greatness in the chat. Says, peace, brother. I'm always in the background listening to your show. First time I'm going to drop something in the chat. Well, we appreciate you doing so, man. I'm always telling people, don't just peek through the blinds in the bushes. Come on out into the family and be a part of what's going on, man. You know what I'm saying? Just be a part. And we welcome you, huh? We welcome you. Scrapbook says his true and original reason for being in the ring is gone. You may very well be right with that, Scrap. And even when he was in there originally, he may not have been able to define why then. That's a heavy thing to digest when you really think about it. Do you guys remember when Lennox Lewis was suggesting to AJ that he go to America? Lennox was trying to tell this young man then. Wasn't trying to tell him to scrap what he was doing and just, go to America. He was trying to open him up to some possibilities of making adjustments in his career that could benefit him with a different part of the world's experience. We're talking boxing here. And there are some people who could show him some things and introduce him to a different way because it's adding a new wrinkle. It's not about getting rid of who you had. And he rebelled against Linux. Remember that? Started talking disrespectfully to him and everything. Linux made the same choices. And Linux was much more a street person and a badass guy out of the ring than AJ. But Linux had this thing in him that he always wanted to do and get better. And when he was at a place where he found that there might be someone better or he could rise, he wanted to go, okay, who is that over there? Let me go see them. That's how he ended up with Manuel Stewart. Manuel Stewart had Oliver McCall knock Linux out. Linux went to Emmanuel Stewart and was like, how did you train that low-class heavyweight to knock me out? I want to learn from you. That's humility. Something that if a person has, it will allow you to have a moment of pause, a moment of reflection, so that you may know your next direction. AJ has been surrounded by a bunch of guys, fast talkers and everything. And let me say this. You know how they say what happens in the gym should stay in the gym? It's been years now we've been hearing of guys beating him up in the gym. We've heard going all the way back to Danny Dubois and a couple of other guys that have like handed him a rough time in the gym. Now they're talking about Lawrence Okoye beating him up in the gym for this training right now. I'm wondering if all the fight has been beat out of AJ in the gym. He only has 2 losses in the ring, but in the gym is where you do most of your work. And if he's being beaten up in the gym and nobody has the answers, then he should have well taken Linux's advisement and moved on. Because there's a very good chance, a high probability, that he may now be damaged goods. Psychologically, don't we always say boxing is anywhere between 80 to 90 plus mental? The smaller the brain, the smaller the capacity to be objective. Salute to my man Watcher. I see you out there, bro. Reese, bro, I see you. G5 Gabe, I see you out there as well. Big Doe says, salute, big homie. Stormybman in the chat, salute to you. Watcher says, Linux also tried to sign AJ when he came from the amateurs. Yeah. Brandon House says, what's up, Stormy? Salute. Salute to you. Brandon, welcome. Scrapbook says, Linux tried to help him. Yes, sir. See, I want you guys to walk with me on that comment I made a moment ago about he may be damaged goods, being beaten up in the gym. Do you know what it's like to be trying something, being frustrated as hell, and not having the answers to solve the riddles or the puzzles that are before you? See, he could be getting hit with right hands, and the guy's working in that gym saying, man, You got to get away from that right hand. But if they're not teaching them how, show me how. I can show them how to get away from a right hand with a jab. And see, over there, they may still be saying, well, that's Big AJ, Big Femi, right? It's like he's our guy, so we big him up. But you ain't teaching him a damn thing. Guy Lewis, the coach of the Houston Cougars, had to stand on a ladder and show Akeem Olajuwon as a freshman how to dunk a basketball. Because he came from Nigeria. He come over from playing soccer, and basketball was new. So when he was telling him dunk the ball, he didn't even know what that meant. So he had to get up on the ladder and throw the ball through the net and show him. Then they sent him to visit Moses Malone for a summer. Play one-on-one with Moses. Moses teaching him, giving him little NBA tidbits and everything. And he's in college, going into his sophomore year. All of a sudden, Akeem started blossoming from tutelage, from someone showing him the riddles and the puzzles and the answers to them and how to figure it out. You heard him in this interview talk about being big and stiff, something that he's heard people say over and over and over about him. And he's always been inflexible. But I'm going to give you a key tidbit here. His inflexibility is not physical. It's mental, people. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's all. It's been a great evening of boxing talk, man. I'm glad for those of you who came out, checked me out, supported me through the show. Some people just stopped by to hit the like button, and that's okay. Catch me on replay. You'll be sorry that you didn't sit through the whole show. Because I always have some tidbits to share with you. Always. Yeah. Just kind of letting it marinate. What I tried to tell you guys there at the end. Some people it'll be lost on, and that's okay. You know? That's okay. But we're going to get on up out of here. Allow you guys to enjoy your weekend. I thank everybody that came through this evening. I want to say shout out to the LDBC. And we'll be back next weekend with another Friday night chop session. Peace to you all. Have a great weekend. Stormy B-Man, and I'm out of here.